What are all these white balance options in your camera and when would you use them? So essentially, white balance is trying to make white look white. And to the human eye, that is when there is a bright yellow sun with a blue clear sky. The balance of both of those gives us the effect of white in our shots. And your camera has a number of these options available to you, starting off with auto. So all cameras have an auto white balance going on, and what that does is it tries to neutralize any funny color. I'll talk about that in a sec. Then you've got cloud, you've got fluorescent, and on, sunlight, flash, and so on. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to remove a funny color that might be in the light. And what's that coming from? Only a blue sky, say we've no sun. Well, then that's probably shade. So you're very blue. There's a very blue color light coming in. The camera's going to add yellow because that is the opposite and it cancels it out. If you have a tungsten lighting, orange lighting conditions, which is sometimes called incandescent, then the camera is trying to counteract that yellowy orange color by adding blue. So let me show you some examples here of what that might look like in a shot. So here's a situation where the camera was set to a tungsten incandescent white balance. So it added blue to a scene that didn't need it. And you can see from the skin tones that the poor man looks poorly. And here we have a situation where a cloudy white balance was chosen. And a cloudy white balance is adding yellow to make sure that we cancel out any blue. There isn't much blue, even though he's wearing a blue shirt. That's not what we want. And using a daylight white balance or a flash white balance, because these are flash shots, gives us a good looking shot. In this case here, we have two different kinds of shots based on simply changing the white balance. So the white balance that we have is basically adding blue to get rid of yellow or orange, or adding yellow to get rid of blue. When we don't need that, when you're outdoors on a bright sunny day, it's all going to work fine. Auto white balance will do a really good job, in fact, in those situations. So as I say, auto white balance is looking for funny colors, and it's going to see purples, it's going to see blues, it's going to see yellows and oranges. It finds the opposite color, and then it's trying to make white look white. Now, we use Kelvin as a measure of the color temperature of light. Not that it's hot per se, but blue is cool, and tungsten is adding yellow, so that's warm. But basically, this is how we measure it. Cloudy is adding yellow to be able to cancel out the blue that's coming from that grey blue on the cloud. And tungsten incandescent is adding blue to cool down the yellow and oranges coming from that lighting. So that's that scenario I mentioned a little earlier on, that we have the incorrect white balance here. It's added blue, it's a tungsten incandescent, and where it doesn't need it, and it's made the shot look extra blue. Then we have a tungsten incandescent. So we have a cloudy, which is adding yellow to basically cancel out the blue. But basically there is no blue except in the shirt, so we don't get the great shot. Whereas here now, that's a balance. That's the skin tones are much more natural. And these effects will be seen on any skin tone, but certainly on Northern European skin tones, you're really seeing them a lot more. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to just correct for that white balance that's incorrect within the shot itself. The camera's trying to do that, or you can make choices by pre-choosing one of those depending on the lighting condition you're in. So if you know it's going to be cloudy all day, you'd use a cloudy white balance. If you're going to be shooting in the shade, you'd use a shade white balance. I'll talk about that in a sec. But you can also use these colors creatively. So we have a shade white balance here, and we have a daylight white balance. That would be if you're outdoors and you're using the light of the day, the yellow light of the sun and the blue light of the sky. And then we have flash and fluorescent. Now, this is where it becomes interesting from a creative point of view. So the camera chooses this on auto white balance, and it's fine. We've got a nice blue sky up here, lot of orange coming from the sodium street lights here. Not unattractive by any means, but by changing to a fluorescent white balance, which is meant for fluorescent lighting, what it does is it actually accentuates the blue. It does kill some of the orange, but leaves some of it behind, so that from a creative point of view, this looks really, really well. So white balance can be used to make a corrective to your shot, or it can be used as a creative additive to your shot. And then others that are there, these are high end. If you know what the white balance is, and if you have artificial lighting of some sort, it may tell you that it's 5,500. So you can go in and choose that. Tends to be on mid to high end cameras, rarely on low end cameras. And then a custom white balance is where you would basically shoot a white sheet of paper under the lighting conditions, point it to the camera, reference it in there, and then it says, aha, we know that should be white, and we see that there's too much blue or too much yellow, and we'll make the specific correction for that, which works for those lighting conditions at the time you're shooting. And if they change, you have to do it again. So that's what all those white balance options in your camera are, and it's when you would use them. So as always, if you have any questions, just pop them in the comments.